Chess always starts like this. But why? And why not start chess like this? Or like this? And why does it have to be symmetrical? Why not start chess like this? And if you could freely choose how to deploy your forces, which setup would be the best? In order to answer these burning questions, I reached out to my dear patrons who support me on this channel and asked them to send me their best setups or deployments, as I'm going to call them going forwards, according to these rules. You can freely deploy your normal 16 chess pieces on the first 4 ranks in any way you like. Castling still works, but only if the king and the relevant rook start at their traditional square, and you can have no pawns on the first rank. I then used those deployments to solve these questions using science. Sort of. Okay, so we want to find out if, say, this is better than, say, this. Another way to ask this question is, if they were to play each other and they could play with perfect strategy, which side would win? And that is what we are going to find out, and I can already reveal that we are going to learn something deeper about chess along the way. Here's what I did. My first step was to build a really powerful PC so we could do some serious number crunching. Then I went and got some professional chess software, and this is ChessBase, a program used by chess grandmasters to keep track of their games, their opponents' games, and apparently all other games of chess as well. And they need to do this for, I guess, serious chess reasons. The program does come with its own chess AI, but I of course wanted the absolute best, so I kicked Fritz out and went and got Stockfish 16.1. Stockfish is an open source chess evaluation program, and it is the best in the world. So if we use Stockfish through ChessBase to have the deployments play each other, will we then learn the absolute truth? No, but close. And here is why. Chess is not a solved game. Nobody knows what the perfect moves are. But Stockfish is the strongest chess-playing entity in the world, meaning that there is currently no way we can disprove the results it comes up with. So, how strong is Stockfish? Its expected score against world number 1 Magnus Carlsen is 99.99%, meaning that Magnus would score 1 point out of a possible 10,000, according to this math at least. I configured the software to utilize all of the available RAM and all of the available CPU power to really squeeze out that sweet, sweet science juice. I then went and gathered the deployments submitted by my patrons, made one myself, and also threw the standard starting position in there for lulz, for control, as a control. Now for the hard part, getting the program to determine which deployment is really the best. First of all, we have to understand that the strength of a given deployment is non-transitive. That means that just because A beats B and B beats C, it doesn't mean that A also beats C. In fact, it is just as likely that C beats A. I therefore decided that all deployments should play each other in a round-robin tournament, so we can see what deployment performs the best against the field on average. Of course, it must be a double round-robin, so that each deployment has both white and black against all opponents. We are going to create a database of our deployments, getting rid of the standard starting position and getting to the deployment positions using this very intuitive and aesthetically pleasing tool. Right, here we are. Took some time, but now we have a database of all the deployments playing against their round 1 opponent twice, once with white and once with black. It is now 32 hours later, and my computer has calculated 922 million possible moves to come up with the results of round 1. And here we have it. In the first game, we have Addison with white against knight with black. And this is nuts. Let's take a look. Addison has deployed her army in 3 sections. There is a castled king, there is a sniper's nest, and there is the main strike force in the center. Knight has done something very, very different. There is a double team of snipers here, but then we have a artillery, a barrage of rooks here in the center, and a lone and possibly heroic knight, but it is over here that we really see the main idea. There is a huge pawn mass here that is shielding the king. It is a super bunker. This is, of course, an extremely original and interesting idea by Knight, and the key to understanding this matchup is to understand this giant pawn mass. So before we see the game, I'm going to remove all the other pieces, and then I will put the move number on the screen right here, and I'll speed through the game looking only at these pawns. And as you can see, they don't move a lot. And when they do, they sort of slowly just disintegrate. So, with that pattern in mind, let's go back and take a look at the actual game. We just saw that Knight's main idea with the deployment, this super bunker, didn't really work. The question is why, and what can we learn from it? This game is 90 moves long, 92 moves in fact, and it is best understood through a couple of key moments that underlines and shows the strategy that Stockfish came up with white to win this game. And the first key moment in this game is interestingly already on move 1. From the start, Stockfish is playing to win with white, no draws here. And the first move is very interesting. Stockfish plays bishop takes bishop, to which the black side replies pawn takes bishop. And what is that about? If we look at the main army, not the bunker, but the army of black here, then we can see that when these bishops have been exchanged, we are left with the queen backing up the sniper bishop, but they are looking directly into this pawn that is very, very well protected by all these pieces. And the same goes for these two rooks. They are biting on granite. They are looking directly into this very strong pawn. Now let's jump just a little bit ahead to the first key moment, which is here on move 7. And already here on move 7 we can see it going quite a bit wrong for black, because black has not been able to do much of anything, just shuffle their pieces around a little bit, whilst white has been able to exploit this extremely strong center pawn control and establish a outpost square for this knight. The problem is that black doesn't really have anything to do with these pieces. There are no pawn breaks that can be used to destabilize white's position, so black is now forced to play with the super bunker over here. We see pawn to A5, e5. Then e4 by white, a4, b takes a4, and b takes a4. So now let's jump quite a bit forward, since there is a lot of shuffling of pieces in this game. Strong chess AIs like Stockfish, they do this shuffling of pieces to really maximize the utility of the pieces before they cash in. So let's go to move 35, which is here. And we can see white continuing with this strategy. There is a phalanx of pawns here that has been building throughout the game, and there's just no way to break through without any pawn breaks, and that again forces black to strike out using the super bunker. We see pawn to b4 here, c takes b, a takes b, and then a takes b. And now we can really see how the strength, the pride and joy of black's position has been destabilized. It is starting to seriously disintegrate, and black has been able to make no progress. So let's jump ahead again and see how white is going to exploit these weaknesses of black. And this right here is the position at move 51. White has activated the king, traded off a bunch of pieces, and once the threat of this super bunker over here was gone, started pushing their own pawns down the board, and the point is that they are going to make a new queen that they can use to checkmate, and from here on out the game is very easily winning for white. Let's jump ahead just to see the end of the game. So now white has their extra queen, traded off everything that is dangerous on the black side, and can checkmate with the bishop like this. But what happens when knight gets the right to play with white? So we change our perspective, we jump into chess space and look at the same game, but now with the colors reversed. And we are again focusing on the super pawn mass that knight has come up with. And this game is where it truly gets fascinating. From the starting position, Stockfish believes that this is going to be a draw, but it isn't. So let's understand why. Stockfish starts out by playing bishop takes bishop, the exact same move that Addison's deployment used to beat knight's deployment with white. But what is different? What is different here is that with the first move advantage, knight now has time to actively start clearing the way, as you can see, for the pawn mass. And we speed through the game looking at these pawns, and all this time Stockfish believes that this is going to be a draw. We see an exchange of queens, and white gives up the exchange rook for bishop here. But now the path is clear for the pawns, and up all the way to this position. Stockfish is convinced that this is going to be a draw. But after this move, something changes. It can now see just a little bit over the horizon to the ultra late endgame. It changes its mind completely, and it says that white is losing. So what is it? We speed through more moves, and we see the pawns going forward. They are threatening to make the queens, but black is also making progress. And here we have it. There's a check, another check, and a queen, but black queens as well. And black queens with check. And there's something about this endgame. There's something here that was misevaluated initially by Stockfish, because somewhere along the lines black is making more progress than white, and we end up in this position here, in this late game, ultra late end game, where the black pawns are suddenly unstoppable, and we see a checkmate occur on the board like this. So the first match ended 2-0 in favor of Addison. In the next matchup, we see two completely new things that can only occur in this type of chess. With white, we have PlanetXenu squaring off against Dr. Blueberry with black. And these two players have chosen to deploy their pieces in a very similar manner, where we see rooks and queen for white influencing direct control over the center, and likewise for black. And we also see white using bishops and knights to exercise control over the center from the flanks, and similarly for the bishops and knights for black. And also very similar king positions. What is very, very different is the pawn structure, because white has chosen this pawn structure that is immediately aggressive in the center. We see this very, very different pawn structure from black, relinquishing control in the center, focusing instead on the flanks and on open files for the battery of rook, queen, and rook. And on the first move of this game, we see this first new thing that can only really occur in this type of chess. And when PlanetXenu's deployment has white against Dr. Blueberry's deployment, the game is effectively over on move 1, because the deployment can simply just come in and capture this knight on the very, very first move, being even protected by this other knight. And now black is simply a piece down, which is a disadvantage from which black never can recover in this game, and the game is over in only 23 moves. And we can see here how Stockfish with white is very confident, opening up the center, trading pieces, just dominating the center here, and the game ends already on this particular move, where black quite simply resigns the game. And that is because in this position there is just no way for black to defend anymore. These pawns over here are going to fall. They are a full bishop down. This pawn can go down the board and promote to a queen, so this is easily winning for white at this point. So 0-1. But what happens when we reverse the colors? Now we are going to take a look at the second new and interesting thing that happens in this particular matchup. We jump back into ChessBase to see how the tables have turned both literally and figuratively. Because given the advantage of the white pieces, Dr. Blueberry can avoid losing this knight straight away by first capturing here with check, and once the knight is recaptured, the other knight can jump in and capture this pawn right here. The knight is recaptured by the bishop, pawn takes, the knight has no good squares to go to, so knight d4, and now we can really see the central idea of Dr. Blueberry being this extremely powerful artillery that he has chosen to not hide behind pawns, which makes the following sequence possible. White sacks the exchange, rook for knight, pawn takes, but we can see the awesome power of the remaining battery of rook and queen. Bishop takes pawn, pawn takes bishop, rook takes rook with check, rook takes and queen takes, and that is check. The queen is blocking, and already we can see that white is easily winning this game. And why is this winning? Well, we have queen for queen and bishop for bishop, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pawns, all the pawns for white, and only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pawns for black, so black has lost 2 pawns. A human player in this position would probably just exchange the queens to avoid falling for any tricks, but since computers don't fall for tricks, we see this dance where computers in mysterious computer fashion is moving around, shuffling to maximize the utility of the pieces before cashing in. And now we get the exchange. King comes up and all the pawn falls. And Stockfish, of course, easily converts this, makes a new queen, and checkmates like this. So here we have a case where both deployments win with white. Dr. Blueberry had chosen a very provocative setup that was very vulnerable, and with black he lost a piece on the first move, but with white he was able to use his awesome idea of having these cannons just exercising a lot of control down the center. So this is our first match where both deployments won with white. So the match ended 1-1. This next matchup is about to hammer a point home about chess. In chess we say that it is an advantage to take up more space, more territory on the chessboard. And in this matchup we see that concept in full effect. We have Fargrond with the white pieces against the standard starting position with the black pieces. And Fargrond has supplied me with some notes on why they chose this particular deployment. So here's what they say. I want my king to be safe from immediate long-range stacked attacks, both vertically by rooks and queen and diagonally by bishop and queen. I want as few pieces as possible to be immediate targets to facilitate playing both black and white, and I want my immediate weaknesses, the light squares, to be offset by placing most major pieces on dark squares or with quick access to dark squares. So these are some very great and interesting insights provided by Fargrond, and they are in stark contrast to what we saw in the earlier game, where there were not those defensive measures being taken, resulting in the loss of a piece as when playing as black for Dr. Blueberry straight out of the opening. Now let's see how white is going to use space advantage to actually just crush the starting position, because very quickly this turns into this already on move 7, and we can see here that there is a fianchetto sniper position, standard development trying to get castled, but white is just coming at black, and there's opened a line here for the rooks, and we see an exchange of the rooks. Rook takes rook, then bishop takes rook, and now black is out of moves. White will take an additional 14 moves, shuffling the pieces around in typical computer fashion to get to this position before white is really able and ready to cash in the great advantage. So now here at move 21 we can really see white is just squeezing black, completely stifling their development 100%, and black is now toast and white is ready to cash in. White starts out with bishop takes bishop, defended by the knight. Knight takes bishop, and then white crashes through c6 with an attack on the knight. Knight f6, getting out of the way. d6, opening up the scope of this sniper bishop. C takes d6, and c takes b7. The bishop is trapped here and has to give itself up for the b pawn. Bishop takes b7, and then bishop takes bishop. And now white is up a bishop for no real compensation. Because these are AIs playing, the game lasts for another 50 moves with a lot of shuffling around, but this is a story we have seen before. One side develops some kind of strategic advantage, in this case the space advantage, then cashes in for a material advantage, being ahead on pieces. From there on, simplifies the game and wins in the endgame by making new queens. What happens though when we reverse the colors? When the standard position has white, they actually have a chance to get in the game a little bit, and we see the first 9 moves take us from this position to this position, where white has actually developed their pieces a little bit. But black starts so far ahead that black side can use the next 12 moves to turn this into this, where we can see that black has been forcing white back again, and now it's time to cash in a little bit. Black plays pawn to c3, attacking the knight. The knight captures this knight, and a little tactic, pawn to c2 with an attack on the knight and the rook. This knight jumps back, pawn takes rook, promoting into a queen, but that queen is immediately recaptured by the knight. But now the black side has won the exchange and goes on to press that advantage by turning this position into this position, where black has now infiltrated with the rooks and are about to deliver a deadly tactic. Because here, with the rook, queen and rook infiltration going on, Stockfish with black comes up with this tactic, knight to e4, attacking the queen, attacking this knight. And here white has to give up the queen, otherwise this rook will penetrate and we will have a checkmating attack with the queen checkmating the king. Therefore knight takes knight, which of course hangs the queen. Rook takes queen, with a winning advantage for black. So we saw that the standard position was able to fight a little bit against Fargrond's deployment, but in the end it ended 2-0 because the space advantage of Fargrond's deployment was simply too great to combat for the standard starting position. So that match ended 2-0 in favor of Fargrond. Every single pairing has something unique and interesting. We have now reached the final matchup between MayaxMaya and myself, ASMR Chess. And MayaxMaya has done something that no other participant has done. First, let's take a look at the setup. We have a sniper's nest on the king side and a symmetrical sniper's nest on the queen side. In the center, we have the center pawn duo with the knights backed up by the queen. But the really interesting thing is that the king there and the rooks are on their traditional starting squares, meaning that MayaxMaya retains the right for her deployment to castle on either side. I have had a very, very different approach, and this is what I came up with. I wanted rooks on the open files. One of them I have backed up with this queen, and I put a bishop and a bishop here to influence some of the longest diagonals. The reason that I chose this setup with the pieces off to the sides is that in chess they say that it is good to control the center. So this is what I did. I put all my pawns like this, just to say I am not relinquishing power over the center. I put the knights here so they can sort of throw hand grenades over the pawns and influence the center on my opponent's side of the board. I didn't know exactly where to put my king, so in lack of anything better, in lack of any genius ideas, I put him here. And this game is extremely interesting in particular because of Maya's decision to be able to castle. So let's jump right into chessbase and look at this amazing matchup and see what we can learn. Just look at all the potential energy in these two deployments. They are both like compressed springs, just ready to shoot out and crash through to the opponent's king. The plan that Stockfish comes up with white here is to destabilize and destroy the center for black. But it is black that is pressing, and just look at these 4 knights. How cool is that? And we go through the game, and white has been successful, you can see here, in destroying the center pawn mass of black. And it is still black that is pressing, though the knight has to jump back. And we reach the most interesting position with this knight sacrifice that is captured. And now we get a re-establishing of the central pawn mass, really taking control over the center, this key concept in chess. And it is at this position that we must stop and appreciate what Maya has done. Because it is black that is pressing here, and this pawn mass here is just about to crash through. The real threat here is actually not pawn takes bishop. It is, as the red arrow indicates, pushing this pawn to e3 with an attack on the knight. When the knight moves, it will no longer defend the rook. The queen can come in, snag that rook with a check on the king, and that will mean the end of white's game. But there is one move, exactly one move, that can keep the balance in this game, and that is giving up the bishop and castling. And that is what white does. The bishop is lost, but white can fight on, and we just see this liquidation. And now we reach this end game, and my deployment is still a pawn up here, but the superhuman power of the AI is able to perfectly defend this for white. There's no way, you can see black is trying to make progress, but there's no way in. Finally, the pawn is pushed, trying to make that queen. But at this position, white offers a draw. The engine can do that, and black accepts it, because from this position, black has nothing better to do than repeat moves. That is, if white only repeats moves, and white has no prospects to win, so white is going to repeat moves. There will be a threefold repetition, and the game will be a draw. So we have our first draw of this tournament. But now my deployment has white against MayaxMaya. And can castling save her this time, or will this awesome pawn mass be able to crash through and win the game? Let's take a look. Starts immediately with an attack in the center, gaining space, exchanging some pieces, but this is okay because there is a plan, and we will see the plan come to fruition in just a few moves. This pawn is going down the board. That is not really a problem because we have our plan for white, which we see here. And now we can see how the central pawn mass has been transformed into these 4 pawns. This is too strong. There's just no way we can really defend that with black. So black is, of course, making a bunch of threats, keeping the game alive for as long as possible. But we do reach this position, and we can see that the central pawn mass was able to break break through. And now we are just about ready to make a queen. And the game does end like this. Bishop drops back, attacks the queen, push the pawns. We give up one pawn, but it is of no consequence because we can play pawn to f8 and make a new queen. We now have 2 queens, and this is too much, and black resigned the game. So the game ends 1.5 to 1/2 in favor of ASMR chess. Before we look at the standings after round 1, I want to say that this is probably a great time for you to get subscribed so you can catch the next video where I am going to give an overview of the rest of this tournament and do an in-depth discussion of everything we have learned. And of course we will also find the winner and give the prize in that video. If you want to actively participate in the ASMR chess fun like this deployment auto chess tournament, you can also consider joining the Patreon here, which of course also supports my work on the channel. Now for the results. On a shared first place we have Addison and Fargrond. In third place we have myself with 1.5 point. Then we have Dr. Blueberry and PlanetXenu. They had a 1-1 match, so they have 1 point each. Then in 6th place we have Maya and Maya with 0.5 point, and sharing 7th and 8th place we have Knight and the standard starting position. How will it go when we go to the next round and the next round and the next round, and what deployment will emerge as the winner? And who are you rooting for? And do you have your own suggestions for an interesting setup that could maybe beat all of what we have come up with? Thank you so very much for watching. I hope I will see you in the next video. Bye.